Good morning everyone. One hour of food coming
of this 24-race Formula One season in 2024. The driver's title is decided. Congratulations to Max Verstappen for a fourth consecutive world title. The sprints have all been decided. McLaren with a 1-2 to finish off the sixth sprint race of the season earlier tonight. What we have now, the two Grand Prix and two qualifying sessions to go. Max Verstappen with 8 poles this season, Lando Norris with 7. McLaren still trying to win that Constructors' Championship and now have a 30-point gap over Ferrari. And we go qualifying for the Grand Prix around the 16 turns of this 3.36-mile circuit, where the hard tyre shouldn't be seen tonight, the medium tyre probably won't be seen tonight, but there are plenty of sets on the C3 soft tyre, which was the hardest tyre in Las Vegas just 7 days ago. Jensen Butler alongside me in the commentary box. We've had the sprint qualifying, pole there for Lando Norris. McLaren looked good again tonight, but it's a different style of qualifying, and George Russell has to come into the equation.
Yeah, we've got a little taster of who's competitive, haven't we? But you're right, you know, I think in qualifying, in the sprint qualifying, they had one set of tyres, so they were doing multiple laps to try and get the best out of the tyres in the car, whereas now I think it's going to be more, we've got to do it on lap 1, come in, pit, fresh set of tyres, go back out, bang, get another lap in.
You've got longer to try and get your lap in, of course, as well. It's 18 minutes for the first part of qualifying, but you're governed by the sets of tyres that you're given for the weekend and how many you've used so far. Max Verstappen, the two McLarens, the two Ferraris, the two Mercedes, Liam Lawson and Nico Hülkenberg, all just have 4 new sets of the soft compound tyre. Everybody else has 5 new sets of the soft compound tyre. So getting a banker lap in is quite important if you want to carry enough sets through to Q2 and Q3.
Yeah, and it sounds like the quicker cars don't have as many tyres because they're, you know, they believe they're going to have the pace on one set of tyres to get it in. But it's still difficult because it puts the pressure on the driver to get the maximum out of it immediately.
It certainly does. The crowd have waited patiently, some 3 hours between the end of the sprint and the start of qualifying. A lot of work going on in the garages, and I would imagine a lot of changes to the cars as well.
Yeah, I've walked up and down the pit lane, and you see a lot of work going on, a lot of set downs, small adjustments here and there. It's actually quite nice for these, you know, for them to have had the sprint qualifying and the sprint race to really get an understanding of what works and what doesn't, similar temperatures. So yeah, look forward to seeing how different the cars seem when we're out on track.
Max Verstappen then drivers champion for 2024. Lando Norris strengthened his hold on the #2 spot. He's never finished in the top 5 of a World Championship before. And McLaren, as I said, 30 points clear of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull quite a way back as they try and defend their crown. Haas picked up a couple of points in the sprint race, and they've opened up a little gap between themselves and Alpine for that 6th place battle. George Russell is already at the end of the pit lane. He is so keen to get going, Ted Kravitz. He doesn't want to stay in the warmth of the garage a minute longer.
No, he certainly does not. Hello, Crofty. Hello, Jensen. Hello, everybody. From the pit lane, evening all, you might say, here in Qatar. They've already seen a little sprint race. Now we've got an hours-long qualifying session for the big race tomorrow. And I think George Russell on the medium tyres, Crofty, you'll see the yellow sidewalls to them. Just bedding in a set for tomorrow. I wouldn't expect them to be doing any of the qualifying sessions on the medium. Yes, it's good for 19-20 laps, but you'd have to run it for at least 4 or 5 of them to get some good heat into them. So I expect we'll see the Mercedes come into the garage quite quickly afterwards. Otherwise, you can see a mix of new tyres and slightly scrubbed tyres. You can see the Ferrari with the sheen taken off it, just passing me there. And as for those who are desperate to get out of this Q1 session, Sergio Perez, we've already mentioned him, of course. And you might say Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas, but Bottas, Crofty, is having the weekend of his season. Best ever in the sprint so far earlier today, and he's targeting a solid Q2.
With a camel on the back of his crash helmet, as Jensen Button said, gave him the hump earlier.
No, I didn't. You said that, Crofty. Only you could come up with that line.
Good point, well made. Valtteri Bottas still pointless for this season, along with his teammate Zhou Guanyu, who did reach Q2 in Las Vegas. That ended his run of being the slowest qualifier in the last 8 qualifying sessions. Both Aston Martins were out in Q1 in Las Vegas as well, and Franco Colapinto out-qualified Alex Albon just 7 days ago, or 8 days ago as it was in Vegas for qualifying then. It's a Friday night, not a Saturday night. There's the queue then, and there the scrub tyres. The tyres that have been used already. Mattia Binotto is here. His role as CEO at Sauber as they move into the transition period where they become Audi, and they've sold a minority stake in the team, haven't they, to the Qatari investment fund, so more investment coming in for them. And we're on board with George Russell, scrubbing a set of tyres for tomorrow's race. Why is he doing that?
Just taking the sheen off them, like we've seen with a lot of people on their soft tyres. But yeah, it's interesting. He's still pushing reasonably hard. You know, you're putting them through a heat cycle, which does change how the tyre works.
Crazy.
Yes, often the case. 9 o'clock, Doha, Saturday night, traffic jams everywhere. To be fair, you might as well have one in the pit lane as well, Charles, but I think he wanted everyone to get on with it so he can get on the track. At Sky Race Control tonight, Bernie Collins.
Hello, Crofty. Yeah, I've just been listening to Russell's radio there to see if I can pick out anything else, and he's commented that the brakes feel good already, so I'm not sure if they've changed brakes in between the 2 sessions or they're getting the car nicely up to temperature. Hopefully we can see now. I've just seen him coming in. He's going to pit stop onto the soft tyre. The brakes is all up to temp, and then out in a nice hot car for the first run.
You know, Charles Leclerc wanted to get on with it. His teammate, Carlos Sainz, I think, wanted to get on with it a bit as well. And he might just have got past Alex Albon on the track, and then a bit of dust was kicked off as one of the cars ran wide. We're following Kevin Magnussen's progress at the moment for Haas. One of 7 drivers to start a sprint on pole after taking pole in Sao Paulo before the sprint and not starting it on pole for the Grand Prix. And out in Q2 in Vegas, which ended a run of a couple of sessions where he reached Q3, and he's still finding some form, Kevin Magnussen, a decent car towards the end of his Grand Prix career, your former teammate.
Yeah, the car's been competitive over the last few races, and you know, for Nico Hülkenberg to score a 7th in the sprint race in front of Max Verstappen, the newly crowned 4-time world champion, was very impressive, and Kevin looked quick as well. So I think these are a one to watch for some good points this weekend. Yeah, you see Kevin Magnussen earlier on the lap, it was him, I think, that went off and kicked up that dust. We saw the Ferrari and the Williams in the background. A 1:23.5 for Kevin Magnussen, but as a result of that dust being kicked up into the air and going into the gravel trap, he's had his lap time deleted, so he'll have to try again as Carlos Sainz starts a flying lap for the first time. Yeah, down into turn 1. This is as a lot of the corners here, very long corner. Oh, he tried to pick up the throttle there, get a little snap of oversteer. Not sure the tyres are quite ready. Turn 2 looks much better there with a bit more temp in them. Turn 3 is an easy flat right-hander, but only in a Formula 1 car, I would say. Turn 4, long right-hander. It's turn 5. Very, very similar corners. And then you're down into turn 6. One of the toughest corners on the tracks. It's downhill, very easy to lock the inside front left. Didn't hit the apex, but I think it's more important to get the car straight on exit for a good traction out into turn 7. This is an off-camber corner. Very, very tricky to pick up the throttle there. There's long left, which isn't really a corner, into 9, which is flat, and this is extraordinarily, can't speak, impressive to change the direction into turn 10. Good exit, and then you go into this very, very tough triple right-hander, hitting every apex flat, and then there's a slight lift for turn 14 here. You're doing 160 miles an hour into the second to last corner, which has changed slightly. It's opened up, and you can see the amount of speed they can carry there. Takes you into the last corner, another long right-hander. They're picking up the throttle here way before the apex. A little snap of oversteer there. Oh, and he's coming in the pits. He was on the scrub set of tyres, was Carlos Sainz. His sector times weren't too bad. You mentioned that he lifted through turn 14. Last night in the sprint qualifying, George Russell, towards the end, kept his foot in, went up to 8th gear and confused his engine mapping so much that the engine didn't think he'd gone through turn 14. And when he came out of the final corner, he thought, oh, I'm in 14 now, and deployed a completely different map, and he lost 5 kilometers an hour of speed down the straight. Yeah, that's the problem when you confuse the map. And I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to just go flat through there, not unsettle the car by lifting off the throttle. And the best way to do that was to shift up, a little bit less torque, and but it just didn't work out, obviously, with the systems. Max Verstappen on the track at the moment, 2 purple sectors. He crosses the line 3/10 up on Lando Norris. Lance Stroll in 3rd place and ahead of Charles Leclerc and Stroll's teammate Fernando Alonso. A couple more drivers have had lap times deleted. Franco Colapinto being one of them, and his teammate at Williams, Alex Albon, has also had a lap time deleted. So that's not the start of qualifying that Williams would have wanted here. Yeah, not great at all. It's interesting because in this qualifying session, you're not going to see like you did in sprint qualifying where times are going to tumble towards the end of the session. It's very much cleaner, the track now. So that banker lap for Max, actually, Verstappen, might actually be enough to get him through with a 21.7. Yeah, we'll see what the projected cut-off zone is when everyone's gone for their times. Lewis Hamilton now, and we can ride on board with Lewis Hamilton. Has he still got that speed that has helped him to 104 poles in his career? Not this lap. He had a massive snap there through turn 10. Wasn't able to hit the apex. It was actually on entry into turn 10. Had the snap, and that put him wide on the exit. So would have lost a few tenths there. But Lewis Hamilton, unbelievably fast racing driver. I think the difference at the moment is he was always the one you'd look at for getting the maximum out of a car when it came to qualifying. He's not been able to do that last few races, and I think it's, you know, mentally that's very, very tough for him, seeing his teammate achieving what he would be expected to achieve. Yeah, Hamilton goes 4th fastest. His teammate George Russell picking up the pace behind him. Just notice the 2 Aston Martins of Stroll and Alonso come into the pits and completed what they call a hot stop, like it was a race, and have gone straight back out there again to get those tyres out of the blankets as late as possible and to get out onto the track as early as possible and keep that temperature up. 2 tenths between Russell and Verstappen as George completes his first flying lap. Yeah, and that's exactly the point that Lewis made. He's just not able to get the time back. 7 tenths off of his teammate out on the track at the same time. So hopefully it will come to him if he's got another set of tyres to put on for this session.
Right, so we're waiting for a time from Ocon and from Gasly and Carlos Sainz, who we can see here. Alex Albon had his time deleted. Franco Colapinto had his time deleted, and that's why they are in the bottom 5 too. And we'll keep an eye on Sergio Perez, who's just 1/10 off the pace through the first sector. And the first sector, the best time so far of a 30.0, set by Lando Norris, who's currently out on the track, and we can see him as he makes his way towards turn 9 and 10.
Yeah, it's obviously the favourites, the McLarens, but when you have a session like this that you get more chances on a new set of tyres, we might see the Mercedes being a little bit more competitive and challenging for that pole. But we're not there yet. We're still in Q1. Nice lap there.
Yeah, sorry.
Nice lap there for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, goes 4th fastest, half a second off the pace. Sergio Perez next across the line. 7th fastest for him. Not quite into the 121s yet. Max Verstappen radioing, by the way, to say he's much happier with the balance of the car. A little less like a rally car in this session than he felt in the sprint race a bit earlier. Only 59 1,000ths of a second separating George Russell and Lando Norris. Russell with the advantage at the moment. It was Norris in the sprint qualifying by 63 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, we've had some very close lap times, and it just shows you where the sport is at the moment. It's so competitive. Fernando Alonso putting in a purple first sector there as well and going green on his second. It's great to see how competitive it is.
It certainly is. Lance Stroll next to cross the line. Goes 4th fastest. He was up in the top 3 after his first flying lap. And the Aston Martin looking a touch more competitive than it did in Las Vegas as Fernando Alonso now goes 3rd fastest. And remember, both of these cars knocked out in Q1 on the street track down the strip.
Yeah, he's under a 10th behind George in P1.
Decent effort from Fernando Alonso. We remind you from time to time how long ago it is since Fernando Alonso got a pole position, and this is 400th Grand Prix start. It's, what was it, Germany 2012, his last pole position. A long time ago.
Wow. Yeah, we looked a lot younger back then.
Yeah. Well, you don't look a day older, to be fair.
So sweet.
Can't see a grey hair yet. On board with Esteban Ocon, seeing out the last couple of races with the Alpine team before he moves to Haas for next season. He stays last with a 1:23.1, which was, I think, his first flying lap of the session. It was his first flying lap of the session. Not happy at the moment. Esteban Ocon has constantly said that he feels his car is not quite the same as Pierre Gasly's, something wrong with his chassis. Certainly this weekend, Gasly's got the new nose. He hasn't, his car's got the new nose. But other than that, the team stayed completely equal.
So here we have Kevin through turn 3. Down into turn 4. Oh, big snap of oversteer through there at turn 4. And that's the problem around here. Yeah. When it goes, it properly goes. It's the way the surface is in these tyres. Very snappy.
They're going to need to have a look at the floor there, I think. 7 minutes to go. Ocon, Colapinto, Joe Magnussen and Hulkenberg in the bottom 5. Ted, let's head down to you.
A couple of things from down here. First of all, Lewis Hamilton saying he wants some different gloves. I don't know why, but he's had that change and he's gone back out again. And secondly, Crofty, compared to Friday sprint qualifying, it's so close, much closer, isn't it? From 6th Stroll down to, what is it? They're all in the 122s, down to 19th. No, 90, yes, Colapinto. They're all in the 1:22. So pick a number for a cutoff time out of that. I'll go with a 22.3, something like that. Quicker than that and you'll be okay. That's the like of Albon, Hulkenberg, Magnussen. The Haas's have been fast, haven't they? They need to find at least 2 or 3 tenths of a second to be sure of getting out. I think you're watching one of the Haas now.
We certainly are. Nico Hulkenberg with that fluorescent yellow stripe down the middle of his crash helmet. Hulkenberg has picked up points in the sprint race for the team today. He picked up points in Vegas with that 8th place finish as well, and has gone into Q3 on 10 occasions in 2024.
Yeah, they've been extremely strong, and we were talking about Nico not long ago, and you know, he's impressed the last few races. He really has. First sector he's down a little bit though on his personal best, as is Kevin Magnussen. It feels that these tyres might have seen their best.
Yeah. Think how many more points he'd have got, Nico Hulkenberg, if he hadn't have had 7 11th place finishes this season as well, which is a a Formula One record for the most amount of finishes outside, one place outside of the points during one season. And he's just inside the time he needs at the moment to get out of that bottom 5, as is his teammate Kevin Magnussen, but not by much. So they need to really push on in the final sector here. We're watching Charles Leclerc making his way through turn 11-2 as Hulkenberg crosses the line, 5 minutes to go, and he moves out of that bottom 5, replaces Alex Albon in 15th spot. Kevin Magnussen will be next, and I dare say might push his teammate back into the bottom 5. He does. Goes 12th fastest as Charles Leclerc sets the fastest middle sector so far.
Yeah, it's extremely close, as Ted said. And we're going to find that on the next set of tyres as well. A lot of pressure on these drivers, knowing that 1/10 can sort of put you 5 positions up on the grid, or get you through qualifying.
Just looking at what's happening at Mercedes at the moment, Lewis Hamilton is on a flyer and George Russell isn't, but he's just radioed to say if needs be, I'll give Lewis a tow down the straight if he needs it. Now, does he need it? And is that the wisest thing to do?
Not for George. It would be amazing for Lewis. You'll always take what you can. These cars are very draggy, and it makes a big difference. When you
I'm told by Bernie Collins at Sky Race Control, because she's watching on board, he did it at the start of this lap. Oh dear, don't do that very often, Oscar Piastri. There's his teammate Lando Norris going through a couple of corners ahead. Piastri dipping a tyre into the gravel. 4 minutes to go. Ocon and Colapinto, Joe, Albon and Hulkenberg, the bottom 5. Hamilton went 6th fastest with that lap. Verstappen's now gone quickest through the middle sector. Hamilton was fastest in the final sector, and George Russell giving him that tow. Everyone out on the track apart from Stroll and Gasly and Alonso, who I dare say will be coming out very, very shortly. And it's all getting a little bit tight in that scrap to get out of the bottom 5.
Yeah, the cars that are going to be fighting to get out of that bottom 5 are all leaving it to right until the end when the circuit's at their best, whereas the likes of Lando and Max can go out a little bit earlier, be safer, and just get a lap in.
Verstappen's had to thread his way through a lot of traffic on this lap to now find a clear spot. He's got it, but he's only got 2 more corners to go. Here's Zhou Guanyu then, slowest qualifier in 8 consecutive races before he managed to get out of Q1 in Las Vegas. Cars, the Ferrari and the Williams, keeping nicely out of the way. Verstappen crosses the line, goes 4th fastest. Where can Zhou Guanyu put his Sauber? 11th fastest, so ahead of a few, but still in a bit of trouble there as his teammate Valtteri Bottas does not improve, stays 14th.
Yeah, I think the cutoff time is going to be around a 22.1, 22.2, I think, isn't it? So, yeah, not a lap that you would expect from Bottas, a little bit off of Joe, but maybe with a cool-down lap, he's got 1 more lap in those tyres.
Russell goes quicker still. A couple of tenths clear now of Carlos Sainz. Valtteri Bottas, by the way, was 9th on the grid here last year, but currently stuck down in 14th. But with time, if the tyres will cope with it, to recharge those batteries and to go for it again. And there is plenty of time. And this is the moment where they know they've done their job in the garage. What they're relying on now is their drivers to get out of the bottom 5 and, more crucially, to keep all 4 wheels on the track and not crash again.
Yeah, that's the most. Well, there's a lot less to hit here, which is always a positive.
There is that.
But no, they're still on a lot of the cars that. Well, all the cars in the bottom 5 are still on a warm-up lap, getting those tyres nicely ready for their last qualifying lap.
Apart from this man here, Lando Norris, who is currently on a flyer. And a couple of personal best sectors for him in his McLaren. He crosses the line, was 3rd fastest, goes 2nd fastest, 10th of a second behind George Russell, 121.4, should safely see him through. The track evolution that we saw last night in sprint qualifying, wouldn't say we're going to get the same again tonight. No,
you wouldn't. You're going to get a little bit. It's getting colder and there's more rubber going down, but it's minimal, the difference. It's more about getting a completely clear lap. Probably be less cars on the track on this next lap because a lot of the top cars will be hitting.
That scrap for 6th, 7th and 8th in the Constructors' Championship. Oh, as Lando gets his lap time deleted. So goes back to 3rd fastest, and I think a 121.5 will still see him through. You're at Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Lawson, 17th, 16th, 15th, Magnussen 13th. They all need to get out of that bottom 5, and there's only 6 points, isn't there, between Alpine in 6th and RB in 8th.
After talking the Haas up of how good they've been this weekend, they're in the drop zone at the moment.
Not quite happening for him in this qualifying session. What about Franco Colapinto and Alex Albon then at Williams? A 30.2 for Albon, a 30.4 for Colapinto in the first sector. Compare that to the best first sector, which is Charles Leclerc with a 29.8. Zhou Guanyu goes 30.0 for the first sector. Sergio Perez matches that. Colapinto is slightly outside the time he needs to get out of the bottom 5. Alex Albon is slightly inside the time he needs to get through from the bottom 5, as Colapinto now makes his way towards the final corners, and down the straight he comes. Will he get out of Q2? No, he won't. He'll stay 19th. Attention turns to Alex Albon, getting a distant tow and goes 15th. He is right on the bubble, and behind him they're queuing up the green sectors to knock him out. Esteban Ocon stays 20th. Another poor qualifying for Ocon, who was out in the first part of sprint qualifying. Leclerc goes fastest overall with a 1:21.2, some 57 thousandths of a second faster than George Russell. Sergio Perez out in SQ1 for the sprint qualifying, into the top 8. That's much better for the qualifying for the Grand Prix. Lawson has now put in a fastest middle sector of his time on the track. Piastri has now gone quickest overall in the middle sector, and Tsunoda is really struggling as he tries to get out of the bottom 5. Lawson now towards the final corner, as Alex Albon still at risk, and only 21 thousandths of a second ahead of this man, Liam Lawson, who would like to move into Q2 and doesn't. Stays 16th fastest. Tsunoda crosses the line. He does get out for the time being. Alex Albon is out of qualifying, and it's Nico Hülkenberg, the only driver that could do something about it, but he hasn't. No, his timings are awful through the sectors. Gasly goes 10th fastest. Hülkenberg, top 10 for the sprint, bottom 5, and only 18th fastest for the Grand Prix.
It doesn't make sense, does it? It's the next day. How suddenly does it go so wrong or so right for so many other people to have jumped him? So yeah, disappointing for them. He's lucky.
It's not going to work out, is it?
No, we didn't get something right. We definitely didn't get the sock right, Nico. But yeah, obviously we got something wrong. Sorry, man.
Sock, state of charge. We didn't get the sock right.
So he ran out of charge, I guess, on his or deployment on his quick lap.
Nico Hülkenberg then is out in Q1 after scoring points in the sprint and reaching the final part of that qualifying. Below him, Franco Colapinto, who out-qualified Alex Albon in Las Vegas, couldn't manage it here, and Esteban Ocon, slowest and last for Alpine. Liam Lawson is also out of qualifying for RB, and Alex Albon will join them in that bottom 5. Only a few thousandths of a second between him and Yuki Tsunoda, and a few thousandths at the top between Russell and Leclerc.
well, it's an eventful qualifying session for Kevin Magnussen. Now, he makes it through, but it was plagued with a few errors, starting off in turn 1 here on his first push lap, off the track momentarily. Bit of a rough ride for him, and things didn't get much better later on either. On his second go at it, into turn 4, he just couldn't commit. I think he was maybe held up, or not held up, but put off by the car in front of him there in the turbulent air. It can really play an effect here. We know you're looking for a gap of around 7 seconds on this track for that free air. Albon didn't make it through. He was one of the victims of the final corner, unfortunately. Just playing this on, you'll see how he gets to the final corner. Yeah, just that snap of oversteer was enough. He only missed out by, what was it, 2/100ths of a second. So without that mistake, I believe he would have just scraped through. And Liam Lawson as well, another driver that didn't make it through, got a bit of traffic through turn 10. You see the car in front of him. We're talking about this distance you need. He's in the dirty air here. And if I pause that, I believe we can go to his team radio.
Alonso purposely slowed up through 9 and 10 when he aborted his lap. It just sucks, man. That was Stroll.
And it was also Lance Stroll. There you go. It was Stroll. Was he really in the way? Lauren Mekis is his team boss down at RB. I'm sure you think he might be, but let's face it, Lauren, there were a lot of drivers going very slowly towards the end there.
Yeah, you know, I think we're just not fast enough in this session. So there was a lot of traffic for many guys because everybody's doing a lot of laps to get the tire in the right window for the temperature. So there is a bit more traffic than usually. Q1 is anyway always difficult, and this time it's even more difficult for everyone because we are just all running more. But the truth is we are not very fast in this Q1. And we have a bit of work to do now with Yuki to try to catch up. Obviously, we've lost Liam there, which is painful, but that's what it is.
Hi, it's Jensen. Can you do something different with Yuki-san then in terms of strategy for getting the tyres working, so he's not so, you know, in such a difficult position to get the tyres up to temperature and in working range?
We are hoping so, Jensen, in the way that as the track grips up through the qualifying, normally these things get a little bit easier and you need a bit less laps to get into the right window. So we are hoping it will come our way, although honestly we are still lacking a little bit of speed. So we picked up some damage on Yuki's car during Q1 and we are trying to repair right now, and hopefully it also gives us a bit of a boost. We'll see.
Lauren, thank you very much. We'll be back with you, hopefully, after Q2. The battle is on then to get into the top 10. No single driver has reached the top 10 in every single qualifying session this season. But Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri and George Russell have all reached Q3 21 times in 22 attempts. And all look at pretty decent bets to be going through again tonight. Certainly the Red Bull with Verstappen, and I think with Sergio Perez as well, looks a better car than we saw in the sprint.
Yeah, it does, but it's still pretty close, isn't it, that top 10? Yeah, I've never seen Max so close to being out, sort of out of the top 10, if you like. I think it's going to be a very, very competitive session, this, and the Red Bull's not looking that special.
George Russell makes his way down the straight. Is this a flying lap? Does he need a second preparation lap? We'll find out as the lap begins to evolve. That's shiny Mercedes making its way turn 1 into turn 2, and it's just relentless on the steering wheel wherever you are on this track.
Yeah, the G-force around here is extreme. And you've got to remember these drivers are in qualifying now, low fuel, and the times are extremely quick, 4 to 5G in all of these corners. They've also just come out of the sprint race, which was a 19-lap race where we didn't really see any tyre degradation. So they're going to have tired necks already. So this is more physical and tougher than it normally would be for them in a qualifying session.
Picked up his 3rd career win in Las Vegas, definitely on a push lap. George Russell with 29.9 for the first sector, and a 10th ahead of Carlos Sainz and 2/10 up on Oscar Piastri as the two Saubers cross the line and start their latest flying lap. Valtteri Bottas trying to get into Q3 in Sao Paulo. He missed a first Q3 appearance by, what, 0.008 of a second, didn't he? But he did reach Q3 here in Qatar last year. Let's see if he can do it again tonight. Russell continues on his way. Good middle sector, 27.4.
Bit of oversteer on there on the exit. Got a little bit greedy on the right pedal, but I don't think it would have cost him any time.
A 1:21.1 is a 10th up. George Russell on his best time from Q1. Carlos Sainz is 4/10ths down, second fastest. Crossing the line to start a lap, Lando Norris, his teammate Oscar Piastri, about to finish a lap. And he puts himself second fastest in between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. And aces that final sector, as Charles Leclerc is hoping to do so, as he's the latest to just dip down to the line, but a 1:21.4 ahead of his teammate, but still a couple of tenths off the pace, which is being set by George Russell and his teammate Lewis Hamilton. 4/10ths behind, can't get any nearer to his teammate.
Max Verstappen on a lap, just going through turn 14 into the second to last corner. It just still amazes me the amount of G they're pulling here, and being able to keep their head upright, it's difficult enough. But last corner here, nice exit. The rear seems planted to the ground, doesn't it, on the Red Bull?
Certainly was. Verstappen crosses the line, goes quickest, ahead of George Russell by 7/100ths of a second. He'll do a cool-down lap, at least one now. Oscar Piastri been told 2 cool-down laps. Take the heat out of those tyres, give us some performance to go again, as Sergio Perez goes 4th fastest. It's a 2-pronged Red Bull attack in that top 4, and we've not said that an awful lot during the course of this season. Perez failing to reach Q3 9 times overall in 2024, as well as in both previous visits to Qatar, as Lando Norris goes 4th fastest, and a bit of a distance between himself and Max Verstappen.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think with Checo, it's nice to see him up there, isn't it? He would, he's going to have a nice feeling crossing that line and being told he's in P5 at the moment. That will give him a little bit of a confidence boost when he puts the next set of tyres on.
Right, we've been through with the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Jensen, here's your old teammate Fernando Alonso on the track. Let's compare how things are in the Aston Martin.
You can always tell it's Fernando Alonso. It doesn't matter what colour the car is. You can see it's him with his driving style. A little bit snappy on the way into turn 2. Beforehand, there's turn 4, turn 5. And now down into turn 6. A little bit of recharge there. As you can see, he's picking up the throttle super early. The rear is moving around a lot. Would have lost him a little bit of time on traction there. This right hand is a little tough. Easy left-hander. He's into the fast turn 9. Easy flat. Change of direction. I watched out on track there yesterday, and he's off the track. The car's looking really snappy. Apex to exits. And he was off the track there, so that will be deleted.
Certainly will. That won't help him in his quest to get a first pole in 4,514 days. Fernando Alonso. He'll carry on and hope that the race control weren't looking, but
he's backed out of it. I think he knows he lost too much time anyway.
Yeah. So he will live to fight another day, but it'll be on another set of tyres as he dives into the pits. 9 minutes to go. And we've had times from everyone except Alonso and his teammate Lance Stroll, who's about to cross the line now. Here comes Lance Stroll, who hasn't reached Q3 this season when his teammate hasn't. So it's only when Alonso gets into Q3 Lance Stroll has managed it, and that time isn't good enough to get into the top 10. He's 2.5 tenths outside the pace. Pierre Gasly leaps into the top 6. I tell you what, an informed Pierre Gasly, certainly in qualifying at the moment, he has very much got the bit between his teeth.
He's been on it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Looking at this session, it looks like you're going to have to do a 21.4 to get through to Q3. You know, Lewis did a reasonably good lap there. It was only a few tenths off his teammate, and he's down in P9.
So Sergio Perez has done a 1:21.4. And that isn't going to help his quest. That wasn't a push lap either,
No.
was it? Was he distracted? We haven't seen the on-board, but I wonder if he was adjusting something on his steering wheel.
Yeah, maybe preparing to recharge for the next lap. Here we go with Fernando. Bit of understeer, then a big snap of oversteer. He knew from there it was game over this lap.
So Pierre Gasly up into the top 6, one of 4 drivers in history to have started on the front row here in Qatar. His only Formula 1 front row start as well. It's all got a bit quiet on the track at the moment. What's happening in the pit lane?
Plenty is happening down here. Fernando Alonso, after that little wobble, came straight into the pits. Set of tyres, I don't know what he's going to do with them. He's running out actually at this point, Crofty, but they need to try and get into Q3. He's in the garage now, Alonso. They'll put the last of what they've got on and send them out again. They're just waiting for Stroll to come in as well. A little bit of an unsafe release, you might say, a bit of a close one, with a Ferrari getting released into the path of Lewis Hamilton. But you see that kind of thing all the time. The very helpful and not at all annoying pit lane klaxon going on behind me, which means someone else is coming into the pits.
You must hear that in your dreams.
I do. It's the it's the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. Yeah.
We saw it outside our commentary box window. We have a great view of the cars coming into the pits and a great view of Oscar Piastri as he made his way out the final corner and down the straight to go second fastest overall. That unsafe release Ted Kravitz was talking about with Carlos Sainz has been noted by race control. Out came Lewis Hamilton and out cheekily came Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, it's definitely not. The driver can't see what's happening there. It's all about whether he's told to go or not and how he reacts.
They didn't touch, they didn't come together. Lewis had to stamp on the brakes a bit. It was cheeky, but I'm not expecting a penalty.
No, I hope not.
Although, to be fair, you know what us Brits are like for queuing. You know, get behind. We were here first.
I was surprised that Piastri could put that lap in. That was a long way into the session on that set of tyres. It's impressive. It does show you that the circuit is still improving.
So we reckon a 121 is good enough to get through?
Definitely. I mean, wow, the Red Bulls. It's a surprise.
Yeah.
We haven't seen this pace from them all weekend. And, you know, Checo's done a reasonably good lap as well, but Max P1.
Well, let's see after this next round of laps. Carlos Sainz has lost a heap of time in the middle sector, and his unsafe release moments will be investigated by the stewards after the session. So our screen tells us. Hamilton is a couple of tenths down, but ahead on pace at the moment of Carlos Sainz as George Russell goes fastest, 1/1000th of a second faster than Max Verstappen. Sainz stays 8th fastest, 1:21.4. That could be a bit troublesome for Carlos Sainz if those behind hook up a lap. And by 1/1000th of a second, again, Lewis Hamilton can't get ahead of Carlos Sainz. It is so tight between various drivers out there. Charles Leclerc, currently in P7, moves up to 3rd fastest, and there are 23/1000ths of a second now between the top 3.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
The top 4 are super close. Look at that.
It's 5/100ths of a second between the top 4.
That's what we like it.
And we're saying a 1:21.5 could be the projected knockout time.
It's also 4 different teams.
Yeah, which is fab. Mercedes from Red Bull, from Ferrari, from McLaren. If that 1:25, you know, give it an extra 10th, everyone I think from Sergio Perez downwards might be a bit unsafe here, and Lando Norris still might find himself needing to go out again, which when you're trying to save tyres, Bernie Collins, is never what you need.
No, exactly, Crofty. And I'm just picking up on what Jensen said there about Piastri being, he'd done push, then 2 cool laps, then another push, and he found 2 tenths in the second push lap that he done. And that's what most of the cars that are currently on track are now doing. They've left this final run early enough to do a first push, 2 cool laps, and then a final push. Some others will come out towards the end of this cool lap for others and just get 1 single push lap on the tyres.
And to back up what you're saying, Lando Norris crosses the line, goes ahead of Max Verstappen, who'd moved ahead of George Russell. We're still finding improvement from the drivers, maybe a bit from the track as well, but I think once they know they can do a fast lap, confidence is high and they're really going for it.
But we're not seeing big chunks. Like, he's gone half a tenth quicker than Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen went half a tenth quicker than George Russell. So it's marginal gains at the moment.
Certainly is. And the drivers all saying yesterday after sprint qualifying, we are so much quicker here in Qatar than we were last year. The track is cooler, the wind has dropped, the surface has had a time to bed in, the cars have developed as well, something like 3.5 seconds faster. So they're really hanging on by the end of the lap, and their neck muscles, like the tyres themselves, are crying out for a bit of mercy. We have got 2 minutes, 40 seconds to go. Bottom 5, Alonso and Stroll, Tsunoda, Joe and Bottas. This man, Kevin Magnussen, currently 10th fastest. Lewis Hamilton has just pitted, changed the tyres, come back out again. He's needing to get an improvement on from 9th to avoid a Q2 exit. And Magnussen pootling around, preparing his lap and ready to go. And he's at the He's at the head of a whole load of cars on the track who are all in the same place, Jensen, who all need to find a gap.
And they're all doing the same thing, apart from Fernando, who's giving it the beans with his big weaves.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a very important 2 minutes for everyone. They've got to get their temperatures down on the tyres, hope the brake temperatures haven't got too cold, and then fire it up for that last lap.
See, Fernando Alonso is a bit of an unknown. We don't know what he's capable of in this session, but we do know he did a 1:21.6 in Q1. Now, if he can improve by a couple of tenths, and that's what others are doing, he's right there in the mix for the top 10. But he hasn't set a lap time as yet.
Here we go.
Kevin Magnussen then, in his second last Grand Prix qualifying for the time being. Let's hope it's not totally the end of K-Mag. He's only 32, JB. He's got a few more years left in him, but he won't be with the Haas team for next season. He is trying to propel them towards a comfortable top 10 in qualifying here. But Yuki Tsunoda has just put in a 30.1 for the first sector from 13th on the grid at the moment. That is a decent first sector for him, and we'll compare that with Kevin Magnussen at the end of the first sector. Magnussen not going as fast and a little bit down on the time that he needs to be a bit more comfortable.
You've also got Joe's just on a 29.8. That's a really good first sector.
Yeah, whether he picked up a little bit of a toe behind Magnussen down the straight, or Lance Stroll, who's currently out there, not quite sure, but that is absolute rocket ship down the main straight for the Sauber of Zhou Guanyu.
Tsunoda-san P10.
Yeah, so he improves. Kevin Magnussen now sets the fastest middle sector, and Zhou Guanyu is now nearly half a second up on what will be a Q3 appearance. He's got one more sector to go, and he's down there in the bottom 5 with Bottas and Magnussen and Stroll and Alonso. Stroll with the personal best in the middle sector. Here comes Kevin Magnussen, brilliant middle sector for him. He goes 6th fastest, pushes Lewis Hamilton now down into 10th. Zhou Guanyu, oh, it's 11th fastest. He just misses out with a 1:21.5 by about 0.05 of a second. Hamilton is safe for the time being. A Stroll can't get himself into that top 10. Bottas has gone quickest for him in the middle sector, charging towards the line now, goes ahead of Tsunoda and behind his teammate Zhou Guanyu. That's Sauber's best qualifying for ages though, 11th and 12th. Fernando Alonso hasn't set a lap time yet. He could push out Lewis Hamilton as Carlos Sainz goes 6th fastest. Round the final corner comes Alonso now. Verstappen's going quickest of all. Alonso into the top 10. Hamilton needs to charge and push to the line here. He crosses the line and he goes into 5th. Pushes Pierre Gasly into 11th, and Sergio Perez now is 10th, but he should be safe. Tsunoda won't be troubling him. Verstappen crosses the line, goes quickest of all right at the end. Red Bull fastest by 0.3 of a second from Lando Norris, and that didn't look possible this time last night, but you've got to put Verstappen on course maybe for a pole position tonight.
Wow, yeah, exactly. 0.3 up as well on Lando there, but where have they found that pace?
Well, wherever they found it from, Max Verstappen is putting it to good use, and he's got his teammate Perez in the top 10 too. Pierre Gasly not happy, misses out on the top 10 by 12/1000ths of a second. Qualified 3rd in Vegas, SQ3 yesterday, out in Q2 today, along with Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas. Valiant effort from the two Saubers, Tsunoda and Stroll.
Yes, good morning everyone. 1 hour of 3 coming up.
really hard and driving extremely well as well as Gasly. I thought this was interesting. Head buried in the data here in between runs, really studying what's going on. You've got the speed trace on these, every bit that you see going up here in this angle, that's the speed of the car increasing, and then every time it goes down, that's the braking. So the driver's very much looking at the data there to see exactly where, overlaid himself on two different colors there. It's a bit too blurry to see here, but it's that kind of level of detail. Steering trace at the top, all this stuff the driver's really looking into to maximize their own performance. Somebody that found it a bit difficult as well was Hamilton on his second go. The car fighting him through the mid-corner of turn 1, not comfortable, and again into turn 2. This is on a fresh set of tyres. Just, you can see he's not happy, and as he crossed the line on that particular lap, the hand goes up as if to say, what on earth do I have to do? Luckily, he turned it around and he's through to the next round. Back to you, Crofty.
Now, I don't know the answer to this, Jensen, but would Lewis have gone one way on setup and George gone another way on setup? Would the car be vastly different? Or is it different driving styles, prepare the tyres better or worse for one driver or another? But how do you explain the difference?
You wouldn't normally go too different in direction. If the car's working for Russell, you know, you've got to try and work with it in that direction. And these days, you know, the team basically will tell you where the car needs to be.
Yeah.
Aero-wise, anyway.
I mean, not that there was a huge difference at the end there between Russell and Hamilton, but no. One driver seems more comfortable than the other.
Yeah, but I think that lap would have given Lewis big confidence going into Q3. And it can be something that small as well for a racing driver. That, you know, he puts a good lap in and immediately your mindset changes and things are just working for you.
So those squiggly lines, what are they looking for in the data there?
So he'll be looking, maybe he's tried something different on 2 different laps, maybe through turn 1, for example, where he's entered a little bit quicker, but a slower exit, or he's entered slower, being able to pick up the throttle earlier, and you see a better exit, and you see the speed trace improve, so you can see that he's gained time. So yeah, I'm sure the engineer is running through all that information with him, saying where they think he can go quicker and slower.
It's how you then translate that when you're out on the track and everything's coming at you at a million miles an hour.
It's crazy, yeah. And he's not exactly got a lot of time to process that between the sessions, but that's what you're here to do, right? You're here to try and perfect, and it obviously didn't work out for him there, but I think that was other reasons rather than his performance.
So let's have a look then at this Q3 session. Max Verstappen with the fastest time in Q2, the man who took 8 pole positions in a row at the start of this season, a record 8 pole positions in a row. He's only had 1 pole in the last 15 races. That was in Austria 12 races ago. Lando Norris is right up there, the man that could join Max Verstappen with 8 pole positions so far this season. You've got George Russell, Charles Leclerc snapping at their heels too. George Russell fresh off the back of a Las Vegas weekend where he won from pole. And Ferrari, the only team with both drivers on pole this season. There's a lot of contenders out there.
There are, but I think it's a 3-horse race, really, isn't it? It looks that way, and I'm amazed that Max is part of that because he hasn't been all weekend or for the last few races. But you would say it's Max, Lando, and George, which is also great because it's 3 different teams, you know, fighting for that pole.
Absolutely. And Bernie Collins, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I was just going to give a bit of background, Crofty. Magnussen up there in P6, Hulkenberg down in P18, or he was in P... Sorry, Magnussen was in P8 at the end of that session, P9. Why the change in form? Hulkenberg, I think, a bit confident after his pace this morning, done a used and then a new in Q1 and went out. Whereas the Aston Martins, with Alonso up there, did 3 runs in Q1, made sure they got through that Q1 session. Less tyres for this session, but it means they're in the session, which is where the Hulkenberg strategies maybe not worked out.
And only 1 set of new tyres for Fernando Alonso, Kevin Magnussen and Sergio Perez. Everyone else has got 2 new sets of tyres for this. Hulkenberg had the issue with the state of charge as well, and we think lost a bit of energy deployment, but we were saying it, Jensen, get that banker lap in early.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting one. This session is always more stressful when you know you have 1 go at it. Yeah. When do you go out for your 1 lap? Do you get it in earlier because there's possibly incidents that can happen towards the end of the session with yellows, or do you go out when the first group of cars come into pit.
Is that a bit of kidology going on there? Oscar Piastri overtook George Russell on the outlap and then backed off.
I
Maybe
think
Russell
he probably thought George was going to do a lap.
Yeah,
because that's what he's done so far.
But he overtook him and then backed off as if to say, look, I'm just going to get on with this, but now I'm going to do another preparation lap, and leaving George where he is. It kind of, I know those two locked horns a bit in the sprint, but it seemed like they were locking horns again, and I just wondered why.
Yeah, and George has been going for lap 1 straight out of the pits, hasn't he? And obviously he hasn't here.
No,
Didn't feel they were ready. You know, the drivers have temperature on their dash, so they know exactly where the tyres are, if they're in the window to push or not. And they're also being fed that information.
Let's feed you with some information from Ted Kravitz in the pits.
Just funnily enough, George Russell was actually on the radio saying, listen, can you keep a listen out for Piastri's radio, because I don't want to give him a tow if he is going to gear up and start a lap. So, as ultra competitive as always. Fernando Alonso is going to have 2 goes at it, but this first run now is on a used set of soft tyres.
1:21.5 on the used tyres for Kevin Magnussen. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc blistering pace through the first and second sector. Temperatures dropped by ½ a degree from the temperature in the air during the course of Q2. And Carlos Sainz with a 1:21.0 crosses the line, lets George Russell open up a flying lap. Charles Leclerc goes better than his teammate by about 0.2 of a second, and Oscar Piastri, trying to get a tow behind the Ferrari to start his lap, goes on his way.
Yeah, it's a funny one, that, because you do get a bit of a tow, but you're also getting dirt on your tyres before you turn into turn 1, so you take away a bit of confidence.
Sergio Perez, 4th fastest of the 4 flying laps that we've had so far, but he too was on a set of used tyres. George Russell, very nice indeed through the first sector. Compare that with Lando Norris. There's about 0.7 of a second difference through that first sector.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? It looked like he ran a little bit wide there out of turn 10. You could hear the curbing underneath the car. It would have hurt him a little bit with a run up to turn 11.
Fernando Alonso is having a really, really good night. The man who was 3rd here in 2021. He's gone 3rd fastest, and ahead of Magnussen and Perez, the 3 runners are on the used tyres. Norris dives into the pits. The end of that lap wasn't worth finishing it. Oh dear, Fernando Alonso, track limits. So all his good work for a second time coming to nothing, because he's had his lap time deleted.
This is a big lap.
A big lap for George Russell to take him top by 0.3 of a second. Big margin between George Russell and Charles Leclerc. One of Oscar Piastri. He makes his way to the line. Only 6th fastest in the McLaren, 4th fastest, I should say. 1:21.1 as Lewis Hamilton goes 3rd fastest, ahead of Sainz and ahead of Piastri.
But almost over 0.4 down on George.
And shakes his head as he crosses the line.
Yeah, he knew. He knew, but that is an epic lap from Russell, the quickest lap we've seen so far.
This is why Lando Norris was a bit down in terms of timing. Oh, and that could have been a lot worse for Lando Norris, who lost ½ a second at turn 5.
Yeah, that was big, wasn't it? So,
I mean, that could have been a lot more session ending for Lando Norris.
Yeah, well, look how dusty it is there now on that corner. On the entry even, you can see the dust, and that's what's probably affecting them. They're expecting a certain amount of grip, and they're just not getting it.
Is this Max Verstappen then going for a flying lap? If it is, take us through, Jensen.
Yeah, turn 1, this is a long right-hander. Beautiful, using as much curb as he can there. It's amazing how much speed they can carry into turn 2, using all the curb. Turn 3 isn't a corner. And up to turn 4, where we saw the track being a little bit dusty. Turning left before he turns right there always amazes me, but using all the apex curb, looks very smooth actually. It looks pretty calm when you compare it to someone like Fernando Alonso out there. Good traction out of turn 6 up to turn 7. Negative camber corner, which always makes it tricky, but gets to that apex. Runs as wide as he can through 8, 9, easy flat. Get the car over to the right-hand side as much as you can, touching the throttle a little bit as he turns into 10. Good through there. It looks calm. It looks planted. It looks very different to the Red Bull that we saw yesterday, and this is where it gets physical. Flat out through 12, 13, a little lift into 14, or maybe it's flat for him on this lap. and then he's got 2 corners to go.
But I think you probably know that was deleted that lap.
A little bit of dust on the exit
Very
there.
close. So I didn't gain for sure. Worth checking because can be millimeters, if anything.
As Fernando Alonso exceeds track limits at turn 10, Max Verstappen goes second fastest behind George Russell. There were no problems through turn 10 for a car that did look, as you say, easy, comfortable on rails.
Yeah, that was a good lap. Half a tenth down on George, so he's not going to be entirely happy. You know, I think if he did that lap after, compared to yesterday, he'd be happy, but obviously in Q2, he was quickest.
So, Lando Norris, who's been told by the team, push, cool, push. So go for a flying lap here, cool down your tyres, and go for it again. Now, others might be doing the same thing, might be on similar fuel loads. Fuel, as you say, is really important here.
I think they had to, because you can't do too slow and then a quick lap and then come in and put another set of tyres on. So
Yeah.
that's why they're having to go with that strategy now. It might not be perfect, but he needs to get a lap in.
So this is his best chance on this only set of new tyres he's got left now to get the peak performance of the tyre, but on his next push lap, he will at least have less fuel on board. What McLaren are hoping is that as the tyres go off, the track still improves, and that fuel that he's backed off. So he was a 10th down, and is that his engineer? Is that Will Joseph saying, no, forget about this, you're not going to make the time up?
You've not got it.
Save the tyres.
Yeah, exactly. You've not got the tyre working in the working range, or it was the traffic you saw from the Red Bull in front that was cost him a little bit of time through turn 7.
Yes. Oh, hello, Pato Award. McLaren reserve driver watching on with Oscar Piastri, who's been out-qualified by Lando Norris 13 times in the last 14 races. Currently ahead of his teammate because Piastri has set a time and Lando Norris hasn't. And whilst the sprint qualifying went oh so well for McLaren, this is turning into a bit of a tense affair. This will be another cool lap for Lando Norris as he recharges his battery.
Strange, isn't it? You just think, well, that car's quick around here this weekend. It'll be quick all weekend, but not necessarily the case.
Look at that. He's just trying. I was going to say, is he trying to give his teammate a bit of a toe there?
No, they're all on a slow lap. He's just a little bit less slow, his teammate.
So Max Verstappen, who we saw go second fastest, has stayed out on these set of tyres, doing another cool lap there, and they're all kind of jockeying for position. You like cycling, it's like a sprint race at the velodrome, this, isn't it?
It is, as Fernando Alonso exits the pits on his fresh set of boots.
Yeah.
So you'd say he's in really good shape. If they are staying out, doing an extra slow lap, thinking that's best for them, he's got a new set of boots, so he could be competitive here.
So he's got a bit of clear space, but not a lot ahead of him. George Russell is right behind Fernando Alonso and will want to back off a little bit. Meanwhile, the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz is jockeying for position on track with Kevin Magnussen. And they should all have tyres that are relatively new or brand spanking new to go for this pole position. This could be one of the most dramatic conclusions to qualifying that we've seen this season, because bit by bit, they're all finding improvement, and even the likes of Kevin Magnussen finding, you know, best middle sectors out there. They've all got a chance of a really impressive qualifying here.
Yeah, there's big gaps in Q3 if you look at the lap times at the moment, but a lot of people haven't got a lap together yet. There's been a few mistakes out there and traffic and what have you. So yeah, almost just over 1 minute, and this is when it counts.
And one man who's got a really clear track ahead of him is this man, Carlos Sainz, barreling into turn 1 as he goes. He has got a pole position so far this season. Came, of course, in Mexico, his 6th career pole, and he's onwards now towards turn 4 and 5. Get this right, you'll start to grin and really enjoy the grip that you're feeling underneath you in the new tyres in that Ferrari. And he finishes the first sector a little bit down on pace though, only a 29.9.
Yeah, he looks like he's got a bit of understeer in the car in the medium and low speed corners. Turn 6 was a bit of a struggle to get it to the apex. It looks pretty nice there though. Traction, or you could the rear was moving a little bit on traction. Easy through here in 9.
Charles Leclerc did a 29.7. Oscar Piastri matched that through the first sector. Kevin Magnussen did a 30.0. He found a little bit of pace there as well. Middle sector, best so far for Carlos Sainz, but he's a couple of tenths in the middle sector down. He's about half a second down on the two best sectors we've had for the first 2/3 of this lap. Looked nicely hooked up there, only a little extra stab to make the left-hander. There's Charles Leclerc's time as George Russell sets the fastest first sector, and Max Verstappen then goes a little bit quicker. Sainz crosses the line, 5th fastest only for Carlos Sainz. Kevin Magnussen will be next to cross the line. K-Mag 7th fastest, and ahead of Perez, Norris and Alonso. Here comes Charles Leclerc, stays 3rd fastest. It's between Russell and Verstappen at the moment. Russell not improving in the middle sector. Piastri moves up into P3. Lando Norris will be next across the line. Out of the final corner he comes, and it is only P3 for Lando Norris. It's no 8th pole of the season for him tonight. Is it a first pole since Austria for Max Verstappen as Fernando Alonso goes 8th fastest, or is George Russell going to claim pole? And he's on provisional pole at the moment. It's Max Verstappen to try and deny him to the line. The 4-time world champion puts his Red Bull on pole by 55 1/1000ths of a second, while his teammate Sergio Perez, only 9th fastest, and Lewis Hamilton, last across the line, stays down in 6th fastest. It is a second pole in 16 races and a first since Austria for Max Verstappen, who after a disappointing sprint can celebrate a pole position for the Qatar Grand Prix tomorrow.
Wow. Did not see that coming. Did not see that coming. That was really impressive. He got it all together at the end there. George's middle sector was a little bit down, which cost him. But that was a fantastic qualifying session. And great to see so many competitive up at the front.
Verstappen, Russell, Norris. The top 3. The bonus for McLaren is that Norris and Piastri qualify ahead of Leclerc and Sainz. And that will have certainly slowed Lewis Hamilton
Super
down.
dangerous by
So
Verstappen.
George Russell down. Well, let's look at that again, because that's going to get investigated.
If he was on a timed lap, yes.
So George Russell in the middle sector, I said didn't improve, didn't manage to improve.
That couldn't have been Max, though, that caused that, no.
Well, no, it certainly was Max, but that could have been a little earlier on.
That's an excellent turnaround. That's pole position.
Let's go, guys. Well done. What a turnaround. Woo. Yes.
Yabba dabba do, Max. That is the first official pole since Austria. Well done. That was a mighty qualifying. Well done, mate.
Yeah, well done. Well done. That was really amazing, the turnaround. Great job, guys.
Yeah, he did take the fastest Q3 time in Spa, of course, and then had the grid penalty. Christian Horner a week early with the Abu Dhabi do there. It's the next Grand Prix.
Yes. It was a bit of a messy session, that, wasn't it, Q3?
Yeah.
Everything seemed quite calm, Q1 and Q2, and Q3, there are a few mistakes out there, and obviously a bit of traffic as well, so it wasn't as straightforward as it might have been.
We'll go back, I think, to that moment with George Russell and Max Verstappen, though. If Russell was on a hot lap, I think the stewards will definitely look at that. And yes, it has been noted, Max Verstappen, for going too slowly, a Q3 incident. So he stands on top of his car, but he's been noted by race control for going too slow on one of his cool laps. There is a time that is decreed by race control that you have to stick to, and Max wasn't doing that, and he will be investigated by the stewards for that. That's just come up on our screen. For now, though, he can't celebrate that pole, and it was a storming lap from him. It really was. And well, did Red Bull say they were going to use the sprint as a little test for the Grand Prix, a little practice? Practice made perfect tonight.
Exactly. It seems, you know, it's always the way, isn't it? You win a world championship, you're a little bit more relaxed after. But no, a great lap. It'd be interesting to try and work out why George's second sector was 3/10 down.
Yeah.
That's a lot of lap time around here. It's not just driving slower. There would have been a mistake there or something else. So it'd be interesting if we can try and find that out.
George Russell missed pole in the sprint race by 63 thousandths of a second. He missed pole for the Grand Prix by 55 thousandths of a second. He's getting closer.
It's a bit late now, though. But
yeah,
no, he's. I have to say, with George, he has been on it, hasn't he? The last few races in qualifying, he has done such a fantastic job. Sublime.
Hats off to Fernando Alonso, 8th on the grid for him in the Aston Martin, and that's his best since Austin, where he qualified 7th on the grid that night. Lewis Hamilton down in 6th. and with two Ferraris either side of him, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Jolyon Palmer has the microphone in his hand. Let's hear from the top three from qualifying tonight.
Lando Norris, third position in qualifying, not quite what you were aiming for, I'm sure. It looked tricky out there for you, this one.
Yes, yeah, not the position we were hoping for after yesterday and today, but the maximum we could do for sure. My lap was pretty good. I was pretty happy with the lap. Just not quick enough comparing to the others. So happy with the lap. Happy I got everything out of it. Not happy with the result.
And still thinking big picture for the Constructors' Championship on the line. You got yourself ahead of the Ferraris at the end. It's got to be a big target for beating them tomorrow.
Yes, I mean they were. I mean I saw how close. Everyone saw how close it was between all of us for the whole of qualifying. So. Not a lot in it between all of us, which gives us hope that we can still go forward. But there are some very quick cars behind at the same time. So yeah, I think we look forward to it. I think we showed good race pace today. I did have the benefit of being out front and being in clean air, which is a beautiful thing. But I expect a tougher race tomorrow. Yeah.
You gave up a race win earlier. You're going to go fighting for another one tomorrow, then?
Of course. Yes, that was something completely separate. So. Excited. I mean, I think we still have a good chance. I don't think we're as quick as the Mercedes. And I mean, Red Bull showed how much they improved from yesterday, you know. So, yes, plenty of opportunity for everyone.
All right. Good luck tomorrow, Lando.
Yes, thank you.
George Russell, another front row start. I sense you're frustrated there to miss the pole, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great run so far. The last 4 qualifyings, we've been on the front row every one, which I don't think we could have dreamt of a few races. So feeling in such a groove at the moment, feeling really great. My first lap was one of the best I've ever done. And then, for whatever reason, just couldn't find that extra bit of time on the last lap, and Max pipped me. But just taking the positives, the car's been so great the last 2 weekends, and just enjoying it while we can.
We saw an incident where you were blocked by Max. Was there anything in that at the end there?
You tell me, you're the expert. I mean, I ended up going through the gravel all over the floor. Oh yeah, here. Through the floor, so it felt like the floor was scraping over that curb and through the gravel, so I hope it didn't damage it. Maybe that's the reason why we didn't improve, I don't know, but it was a bit of a hairy 1-2 corners before we start the lap.
But on the positives, you led in Brazil, you won in Vegas. It looks like Mercedes are here to stay now at the front.
Yeah, I mean, these have been 3 really great races for us. I think Brazil, a little bit circumstantial with the wet qualifying on the Sunday morning, but the pace last week in Vegas was true. The pace here this weekend is real as well, but it's so close out there. But it just is nice to be in the mix at the front once again.
Race pace looked good earlier. Big fight with Oscar. Can you take it to Max tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, just excited. Hopefully we can have a proper race rather than this team order stuff. So, no, it's going to be a good race. I think we'll all be going for it. It's actually great that Max is in the mix as well. I was really surprised at their turnaround because they looked really off the pace yesterday, off the pace this morning. And obviously they were both in Q3 and Max on pole. So I think we've got a good race in our hands.
Indeed, let's hope so. Well done,
Thank
George.
You. Cheers.
Max Verstappen already deep into the debrief there with Lando, but what a turnaround.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, honestly, I also didn't expect that, but yeah, well done to the team, you know, to give me a car that feels a bit more connected, and once the car is a bit more together, you can push also harder, and it felt a lot better out there in qualifying for me.
So what was the secret? Obviously, Parc Fermé rules were lifted. You had a chance to change the car. Did you turn it upside down?
I mean, we did change a bit on the car, but I never thought it would make such a swing in performance. So that's promising. I hope, of course, it also lasts more in the race. I don't know that yet, but it just felt already a lot more stable over one lap, and that's exactly what we need. And yeah, very happy to be on pole. It's been a while.
Yeah, first pole since the Austrian Grand Prix, incredibly. I'm sure you remember how to start from pole, but it's 57 laps tomorrow. It's a brutal track here, so many fast corners. Are you expecting a physical, tough race?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough race, I think, physically, but I think also mainly on the tires, just making sure that you're good on them. You know, the front left around here is quite, you know, gets eaten up quite a lot. So it's all about managing that tomorrow, but I hope that with the setup that we have on the car now, it will be a bit better.
What do you see as the biggest challenge? Who's the biggest threat behind you on the grid?
I mean, it's all very close behind, and you could see in the sprint, well, I mean, Mercedes, McLaren and Ferrari, they were all quick. So, and now it seems like we are in that mix, and I hope tomorrow as well.
All right, so we're poised for a great race. Well done, Max. Good luck tomorrow.
Well, hats off to the Red Bull engineering team and to all those on Max's side of the garage for turning that one around. But that was half a second quicker than pole for the sprint. So really good effort by the reigning world champion. He's on the front row of the grid alongside George Russell. And there you go. That is your top three tomorrow. All good friends, sharing some smiles, but really was a complete turnaround from what happened. What a different, say, day makes. Okay, we've got all this to look forward to in the build-up to the race tomorrow. As we said, that vein of form continues. Can he take the challenge to Max?
So, obviously there'll be a bit of waiting. Got four cars.
Backing up.
Watch out, Russell's
Late.
pushing. On a slow lap. He's pushing on a slow lap, is what I was trying to say. Don't worry about your delta. People have got track position on you. So just make sure you've got a gap to the car ahead. That's their problem if they behave like that.
Yes, good morning, everyone.